Here's how I made this scene in Blender in under 10 minutes. So I went into PureRef, I put in a reference image, and I'm going to stick to this reference image as close as possible. So let's jump straight into Blender. So I went into a cube and then I just scaled that up to the size that I needed it, 4 by 4 and 2.6 meters high. And then I applied the scale to that. The next thing was the very crucial part of adding the camera and just getting it to the size that I wanted. So I swapped these two values around, and then I also went ahead and changed some of the render settings that I would use for the final render. And then I just adjusted the camera to a position that I was comfortable with because we'll be checking back and forth with our reference image. Once I was done with that, I decided to add the loop cuts at the front. This will be for the window that we've got. So I noticed this window is fairly large, so I just wanted to make it a bit longer so that it would let in more natural light. And then I extruded it out, and then I cut out that face. I then added in a sky texture and went into render view, and then I just rotated the sun and adjusted the elevation to get it to closely match up the position of the sun in our reference image. Once I was happy with that, then I went on to the next step. So the next step involved separating the floors, the walls, the ceilings, so we can add in different materials because each of these have got in different materials. So I went ahead and I selected the floor. After I selected the floor, I separated it to a new material and I gave it a new name. I did the same with the walls, and then I did the exact same with the ceiling as well. So I just made sure every panel was selected, every face that I needed to was selected. I separated it, gave it the name, and this will make everything a lot easier for us later on. The next bit was to add in the drop down ceiling effect. So I went into edit mode and I just added in some loop cuts. Once I added it into the position I wanted, I went on and double checked, and then I selected those faces and I extruded them out. So I extruded them out just to give us that bit of depth that it has in the reference image, and I kept it in frame with our camera. Thereafter, it was time to add in the little indentation in the wall above the tub. So I needed the tub in for reference of height. So I got a tub in from here, put it in, repositioned it, scaled it down just to make everything more appropriate for our scene. Once I scaled it down, I was happy with that. I then adjusted everything and then I could work on it, creating that indentation in the wall. So the indentation in the wall looked fairly longer. So I went back and just tweaked it, added more loop cuts, and then extruded it in. So I separated those faces as well because the tiles that I go on there will be different. So I selected those. And then I needed that bit of edge that you see in the reference image. So I had to create some loop cuts around the edges here, here, and there. And then I had to select all of those edges and then just create a new material for those, extrude them out, and just bevel the edges. And that gave us a very good result, and I was very happy with that. So finally comes the fun bit. So we can start to add in materials and start to see our project come to life. So here I went ahead and I selected, there's a huge amount of different tiles that you guys can get. So the thing is, you go ahead and find something that closely resembles what you want for your scene. I went ahead and played with a few different ones just to find something that matches well together. I scaled them up and then I readjusted them if I needed to. And then when I found one that I was happy with, kept the look together, and then I double checked in the render view just to make sure that everything looks good. And if you ever notice that the bump in your tile looks inverted, like the bump is on the wrong side, that's probably because it is. So what you need to do is go ahead to face orientation and then hit Shift N, and that'll actually bring up this menu. Click on that and it'll flip everything over for you guys and the problem will be solved. So it's quite an easy fix, but yeah, it definitely makes a difference. So make sure you guys do this. It makes a difference in the final render. You won't really see it now, but the final render definitely shows that bump. So I continued to browse around for different materials just to find if there was anything else that would match our scene much better than we have. And once I was happy with something else and I look, I stuck on that. So the next bit that's the most exciting that actually brings your project to life is adding in those assets. Now, one of the important things about adding in assets is you should definitely bring in assets that complement the scene as well as the materials that you've just applied. So that takes a bit of research, but it's always good to look at reference images. So I went ahead and found these items. I checked our reference image. I noticed we had chrome on the towel hooks, so I went ahead and added a chrome material to this because this was wood. This was the one that I had available, so I used that. So I changed it to chrome, and I was happy with the results. I went ahead to look for a rug after that and some plants. So I found a rug that might work as well. It's not as It's not the same type of rug that we used in the reference, but yeah. So next thing I did was I added the light on. So I added the light, I adjusted it, then I just duplicated them two more times. So we ended up with the three lights that we can see in our reference image as well. The next thing was just to check the brightness of it and adjust that accordingly, and then adjust the color as well. So I went back and forth to the render view and I double checked those continuously until I found something that I was happy with. And then went ahead looking for the lights that would go under here, and I found this and I thought this would work quite good. It didn't work out quite the way I wanted it to, but for the scene itself, it worked out fine. So I went ahead to just adjust the size, and then I went ahead to adjust the emission for it to give it a bit more light. Next thing I did was I added in a shower, a glass shower. So I added that. You barely see this even in the reference image, but it does make a difference adding it in. And then the next bit was to find the appropriate plant to go here. So I went ahead and played around with a few, and I found one that I felt would match the scene quite good. So I adjusted that and I rotated it just so I could find a position that would look good as well. After doing that for quite some time, you would not believe the amount of time it took. I found a basket, a clothes basket, and I just adjusted that as well. Thought that would add a nice touch. The next thing I found was the light that we would have on the wall. So that one actually I felt would fit the scene good. So I took that, I duplicated it, multiple ones, and then I had to adjust the tone because the tone of the light was way off. So I adjusted that down to a different tone, get it to match up a bit of the other lighting tones that we've got in here. After I've got that to match up, I then played around with the strength of it, and I decided to cover the top of it because it was letting a lot of light over the top. So I decided to just select the edges and just fill it in. So I filled it in, and that gave me a much better result. The next bit was I added in a tree that would give us a bit of, as the sunlight would pass through, just show us a bit of the leaves and stuff, just so it makes the scene look a lot more natural. Getting that to look more natural is key. So I tweaked around with that, found something that I was happy with. And it also took quite a bit of time to adjust this accordingly because we also wanted the right amount of natural light coming in, and that takes some time. So I tweaked everything. And when I finally, and I mean finally, got this to where I wanted it to be, I was quite happy with the results. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Drop a like and subscribe.